Hi folks, welcome to, I was going to say Coffee and Luke, but it's Look with Luke, but still with the coffee. We're indoors today because it's very windy outside. Now, when we're going through this, and again, I hope that there are even some people who are not Christians will look at this. When you read the passage that we're going to read just now, you think, let's skip over, let's get to the good bits. But actually, it's the details in this that make it a good bit and that add to the bits that are to come. So we've already seen in Luke that he's making a careful investigation. And now he switches tack and begins to give us the evidence. So all this week, we're going to look at the birth of John the Baptist, what is foretold anyway, the prophecy of that. It's verses 5, I think we'll go through to 25, but well, you'll see. Let's go with verse 5 and 6 and 7 actually. In the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abia. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commands and decrees blamelessly. But they were childless because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old. Now, at first, this is just a tragic story, isn't it? That's how it comes across. But let's think about who these people were. First of all, notice how precise Luke is in terms of his dates in the times of Herod, king of Judea. We think this was probably around the year 4 BC. Ironically, Christ was born before Christ, if you see what I mean. The name Zechariah is a name that's frequently mentioned in the Old Testament. I won't cite them all. It means Yahweh remembers. And he was a priest from the tribe of Levi. Now this is where it gets really fascinating for me. So you go to a book like First Chronicles, and we're presented with lists of names at times that we think, well, what is this? What does this actually have to do with anything? Says he desperately trying to find it. First Chronicles 24. Now, that chapter, these were the divisions of the descendants of Aaron. The sons of Aaron were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, and so on. And then it goes on to say that they divided them impartially by casting lots to look at the sanctuary. And then it says, in verse 10, they're talking about the lots. The first lot fell to Jehoiarib and so on. But in verse 10 it says, the 7th to Hakkoz, the 8th to Abiah. Now, here we are told in Luke, did you notice that? He belonged to the priestly division of Abiah. What that means is, twice a year, he would have 1 week where he was on duty in the temple, had to stay in the temple the whole time, along with between 4 and 9 other priestly families. Priests were also expected to marry. We've got Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth's name, the meaning of Elizabeth, and I know some Elizabeths, and I know at least one who's watching this. There's some argument about what your name means, but it either means my God is the one by whom I swear, or my God is fortune, is good fortune. Either will do. Now, from Leviticus 21, we know that priests were expected to marry virgins of Israelite birth. But even more so, to marry the daughter of a priest was preferable. Well, Zechariah's wife was just perfect because she was a daughter of Aaron, which really means that she was the daughter of a priest. And so they marry. Now, verse 6, look at it. From it, we note that both of them were righteous in the sight of God. Well, I think that's a wonderful phrase. And again, I'm looking at this and saying, okay, what does that mean? Basically, they were righteous as diakos, which was a word we use for righteousness. But it meant in priestly terms that they did keep the law and they were good with the rituals and everything. They were blameless with respect to God's commands and requirements for the priests. And the reason that's being said is because they were childless. We go on to verse 7. Now, childlessness was considered, if you look at Psalm 128 or Psalm 127 about the children of the womb are a heritage from the Lord, childlessness could be considered a curse. If having children is a blessing, then the opposite is a curse. And you could argue that for some people that was true. But this is where the theology becomes really important, because it was really wrong to blame Zechariah and Elizabeth for not having a child, saying, well, it's Elizabeth who was not able to conceive. And at this point, they were both very old. So we are being told this to show that they weren't sinful. And by the way, it is incredibly cruel to ever say to someone, the reason that you are childless is because you've done something wrong or because God is cursing you. There may be another purpose. And that was certainly true for Zechariah and Elizabeth. Now, it's fascinating because this in the Old Testament, think about it. Sarah was old before Isaac was born to her. Samson was born to the wife of Manoah, and Samuel was born to Hannah, both of them to mothers who were considered to be beyond giving birth. I think the reversal of being barren was to be a great cause of joy and wonder. And that was because, as well, John, this is all leading up to an even greater cause of joy and wonder. So let me just leave it there. God is already acting. Please don't limit your world to your immediate circumstances or to particular things that may be wrong with you that you consider is the curse of God. It may not be so. God will have other purposes for you, and we have to rely on that. And I think this wonderful promise of this elderly childless couple who were to bring and to be such a blessing to Jesus and to the rest of us because of that. So think about that. God bless you. See you tomorrow. We may be out on the balcony tomorrow. This is my last week in this flat, so you can see the bike inside. Got my old bike back. When I think about everything and just think about what we've just been reading, this little detail in here, every little detail makes me realize that the Lord knows absolutely everything, and he works all things for the good of those who love him. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Bye.